Well, welcome everyone to another very special episode of We're Not Helpful podcast, a podcast about books, recommendations, our thoughts and opinions, and everything in between. I am Eloise, and joining me today is Brayton. Hello, Brayton.
Hello, I am here.
And for this episode, we have a very special guest with us. We have a Brisbane author with us who is the author of the
Woo!
Flamegate series, which you might have heard in previous episodes when Brayton has mentioned it. Please welcome Kate Mack. Hello, Kate.
Hello. Yes, thank you for
Yay!
mentioning it. It's always nice when I get mentioned. I appreciate that. Hello.
Well, if it's anything to go by, like when you mention us as well on Facebook, we're all like, "Ooh, we're being mentioned."
The community is a wonderful thing.
Someone out there knows we exist.
I know. I know. It is a novel concept. I love it.
And Brayton, you met Kate at Supernova last year, is that correct?
I did, yes, and yep, Kate, there is an ulterior motive because
Go on.
when I found your stall, like I came up to chat. I don't know if you even remember me like buying your
I
books or
feel
not.
like you were one of the first.
Oh, really?
I think so.
I'll take it. I was there when it like opened, so I don't know. It might maybe.
Yeah.
But you were, yeah, so I saw the book, came up, you were talking to someone else, so I didn't immediately come up to you because I'm not just going to
Uh-huh.
stand there awkwardly. But you were giving away $40 QBD vouchers, and I
I
did not
was.
win.
Sorry about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very upset you didn't rig it for me.
Yeah. Apologies. Apologies.
Ah, it's all good.
Oh, hang on, was it a competition to get a voucher?
Yeah, I think it was
I
just
can't
Oh,
a,
remember what
right.
I did. I think every book purchase gave you a voucher to QB. No, gave you a ticket to the
I think it was
raffle.
just a raffle or something.
Ah.
Hmm. I was also giving out free chocolate though. Did you take a free chocolate?
Yes, I did, and then I found it in my
Well, there you
pocket
go. All is not lost.
hours
Oh.
later, melted. I forgot it was
Oh.
there.
Okay,
Gotta
never
love
mind.
I
when
didn't
you
get to
ruin a
enjoy
pair
it.
of pants because of forgotten chocolate. And then you have to say, no, 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 it's chocolate, I swear.
Oops.
Luckily, the
Oops.
the package
The
did not
November
break. It was all
heat.
good.
I tend to leave chocolate in my purse and then we'll find it days later and be like, woo, forgotten chocolate, hooray.
And
I'll eat
or
that
the
now.
car chocolate. Mm,
Hard chocolate's not so great because
No.
not so
that tends
good.
to get a
No.
bit melty.
Yep.
So Kate, you are
Hmm.
author, as we mentioned, of the Flamegate series. There is currently two novels out, and you're expecting to release the third in the series later this year.
I wouldn't say expecting, and I definitely wouldn't say this year.
Okay, I won't put that
Um,
pressure on you then.
no, I'm sort of just playing around with a few ideas at the moment. It wouldn't be technically, it wouldn't become a trilogy. I'm happy for it to be, it's a duology at the moment. So it's all wrapped up. It's very much finished where it is, but
Ah,
there is
okay.
potential for it to be continued in different directions. We shall see. It's mostly for me at the moment, this third, whatever I'm going to call it, but we'll see how it goes. Later
So,
this year, though, I am hoping to release the Spanish version of the first book. So
ooh,
Oh,
maybe publishing something this year.
what's drawn you to publishing it in Spanish specifically?
A whim.
Okay,
there,
fair enough.
there was a lovely Spanish speaking bookstagrammer who said, I'm starting up translation services if anyone's interested. And I thought, oh, why not? We'll see how that goes.
you might get really
So
popular in Spain.
maybe, I don't know. I don't speak a lick of Spanish, so I can't tell, if it feels right, it sounds right. I like the look of it. We'll see.
I did see on your biography on your website that you spent 4 years in Japan. Would you have any interest in releasing it in Japanese, for example?
I don't know. I would have to find the right translator. I think that would be awesome. I just love a copy of it in every language, and even just for me as a nice, like, I'm a bit of a language nerd, so I really enjoy looking at the different languages. Uh, I wonder if some of it just wouldn't translate very well. There's a lot of sarcasm in in the books, and who knows? Maybe one day, one day.
Phoenix is a bit of a sarcastic character, I have to
He's a
admit.
bit of a
I've only
sasspot,
just
yeah.
started reading the first book myself. Full
Okay.
admission here, I haven't finished it
Yeah.
yet. I'm finding it a little bit difficult to get back into reading after being destroyed by Moby Dick, which I
Can I
think.
just say congratulations for
Thank you.
finishing Moby Dick? I've been wanting to say that to your face. Also, I finished because of you. I finished Catch 22 last night. I thought if I'm
Oh,
meeting Eloise today, I have to come in head held high. I did it.
well done.
Thank you.
Yes, from one struggling reader to another, I applaud you.
Honestly, an inspiration, truly. It's taken I probably about a year, I think, and it's much, much smaller than Moby Dick.
But did you
But
did
we
you
got
like
there.
it?
Oh, it's a tough one. I loved parts of it, and others just made me deeply uncomfortable. It was have you read it?
No, and I don't
No.
actually remember what it's about. Like I have heard the description before, but I've completely forgotten.
Yeah, it's World War II, and there's just a whole bunch of contradictions squeezed into however many pages it is. And sometimes you're laughing, and sometimes you're feeling really upset. And I enjoyed most of it. Depictions of women, I had to like stop and walk away for a while. I'm like, bit dated, but otherwise, yeah, it's got some
Is it
decent
an
bits.
alternate world kind of alternate timeline version, or is it sort of based
No,
on?
same, pretty much based in
Okay.
reality, I think. Yeah. Worth reading. I don't think I'll read it again, but I'm glad I read it.
Well, you can
Yes,
tick it off the
I'm
bucket
with you.
list.
I will. I will. Oh, I have. It's very
It's funny
satisfying
because
tick.
I'm sure Catch 22 like usually makes it into the top 101 of like Dimix's like top
Yeah, honestly,
101 books to read per year.
it is a good book. I can see why it's, considered a classic for sure,
Mm.
but I don't need to read it twice. And
I'm
probably
pretty
I don't think I need to read Moby Dick now. I think I can just appreciate.
Look, and I've been saying this to a few people who have asked me, if you want to read it, read the first page and the last three chapters.
You've got
That's
it
all you
covered.
need.
Yeah.
You don't need
Okay.
all of the middle part.
Noted.
Except maybe
Thank
the
you.
weird chapter where they're all suddenly squishing sperm. I still
Yes,
can't
I've
get over
heard
that bit.
I've heard tales.
I don't understand that bit at all still.
Oh dear.
But yes, Brayton and I will do a special episode. We still haven't gotten around to it.
Hmm.
No,
Because I've
I have
been.
actually had emails asking when is that coming.
Oh, really?
Just
Okay,
like the
Yeah,
I will get
summary
on
of
to
Moby
my.
Dick.
it's. I think the plan is just Eloise just to rant for an hour about it.
Pretty
I
much.
think you
Pretty
could
much.
easily
I'm
do
going to
that.
write a manifesto about
Uh-huh.
it, and I will read it out.
And who knows? Maybe by
Perfect.
the time this interview goes up, we've already recorded it, and maybe it's out, or maybe it's not. I don't know how time works with these recordings.
No.
It's not linear.
So,
Yeah, that's right. You're
Um,
flexible.
So, how about we get back to your book now? Let's stop talking about
No. I don't mind.
terrible books that I've read.
I was going to
I'm really,
say, Kate, would you like to just
Yes.
just for the people that may not have read or listened to previous episodes, do you want to give a quick rundown of what your book is actually kind of about, or like give us the elevator pitch?
Oh, I should have practiced that. You know what? I've got it here. I'll just read you.
Go for
I'll read you the tagline that's on the
Yep.
back of the novel.
however you feel comfortable doing it.
The tagline is just an erratic, sarcastic, dimensionally unstable trumpet player trying to save the universe. And really that is it in a nutshell. There is I think you explained it quite succinctly and well in your last podcast. He is trapped in two worlds essentially. One of them is sort of futuristic Earth, and things are not doing so well there. He's kept a prisoner in that future world, and then the world where he originated from, yonder, is a bit more fantastical, a bit more fantasy-esque in the vibes, I suppose. And he's got two different bodies, and he switches between the two every time I knock the poor fella out.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah, poor thing.
I find it was a really interesting way that I've not seen other fantasy novels set out, where you're introduced to the world as you go on. So I like
Mm.
a lot of other fantasy novels will sort of set you up and describe the world that you're in and sort of the laws of the world essentially. But this is like you find out piece by piece what's actually happening in both at the same time. And I thought that was a really unique way of approaching it. Did you have that specifically in mind in terms of the storytelling?
Not so much intentionally, but I think as a reader, I quite enjoy just experiencing the world as you go and you just sort of settle into the characters. And I'm not a huge fan of like detail heavy fantasy worlds, especially if you launch the reader in immediately and you're like, oh, if that's a lot to take in, I'd much prefer to hook people in with a character and then see where the character leads you along the way. But yeah, no, not so intentional, but it's just how it played out, I guess.
Who inspired you to write the characters specifically? Are they like based on anyone in particular, or is it sort of like part of you in the characters at all?
I'm not sure. I don't think they were inspired by anyone in particular. Phoenix sort of popped into my head very much as he did in the first chapter, just like burst into my brain all injured, escaped from a prison. I'm like, where did you come from? So I just went with that. I don't know if he came from anyone in particular. I was actually in the middle, when I started Flamegate, I was actually in the middle of writing a sequel to another book that never saw the light of day. And I just totally left them by the side of the road and just was swept along and followed Flamegate instead. For the best, I think. I'm glad I did that.
Yes. Was it was Flamegate like an easy book to write?
It was an enjoyable book to write. It wasn't, I won't say easy and I won't say quick. It took an embarrassingly long time to, from start to finish, definitely from draft one to publication, or I'd say it nearing 10 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think that's good encouragement for anyone who's trying to write something who feels like, oh man, this is taking me so long. It's just like, oh, you know, it's a good reminder to never give up because sometimes it can take that long. And especially if you're not.
Enjoy it as well. Like, it's not a race.
And obviously, like a regular person who perhaps wants to try and write something, I mean, you've got everything else involved in your life that prevents you from sitting down and writing for like 7 hours straight every day.
Yeah.
That's the dream though, isn't it?
It is.
Like I was a bit higgledy-piggledy with the very first draft. So I went in not really knowing much outside of Phoenix, and I followed that along for a while. And I got 83,000 words in before I realized this isn't working. And I started again, and I had a much better idea of where I was going once I sort of went back to page one. But I think that sort of is inherent when you're working with a lot of time travel and multiple dimensions and different worlds. I had to get my head around everything first. And then once I had a bit more of a chaotic timeline going on, okay, now I know what the important things are and I can go back and target stuff a little more.
Because I guess you shared a photo with me of, I think, your timeline, which is very complicated.
Yeah. You know what else? I brought, sorry to interrupt. No, I have timelines, but also because I was panicking, like, I don't know how to do a podcast interview. I bought props. And
nice. You brought props to an audio medium.
That's the thing. Yeah, I know podcasts are not the most visual of mediums, but you know, we can use the power of the spoken word and I'll describe what I'm showing to you. This is, I'm not sure which is the first one. Here we go. This is draft one in symbols.
Oh wow.
And that was just me being absolutely bonkers trying to work out what in the world was going on with the plot. And I couldn't put it onto several pages. I just needed a way to like look at things and go, all right, here's the flow. And it just looks like kind of modernized hieroglyphics. I look like a manic crazy person, but it helped.
Yeah,
I can
whatever
recommend
works.
it. Yeah.
Like, so is that actually telling the story about what's going on with all those symbols?
Well, it
That's
tells
amazing.
draft one. I was looking at it this afternoon. I'm like, do I still understand what this means? And yeah, mostly.
Is it very different to what like the final draft looks like? I mean, obviously the final draft is in English,
It
not
is.
just
It is.
hieroglyphics.
I thought I'd go with the more universally accessible language. Um, but yeah, no, it has changed. I'd say the last half of Symbol is totally different to the final product, but pretty close.
Okay, so if I post that up onto Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, whatever, anyone can pause it and just read the whole book right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
If
Yeah,
you
you
can
don't
figure
even
it
have to
out.
buy a copy.
No.
Oh, we should
I mean, the
totally put
ending's
like
changed.
it should totally be
Yeah.
like one of those mystery prizes or something where like you get some kind of reward if you can figure out
Decipher some of
the
it.
storyline from all the symbols.
I did
$1
give it to
million.
a friend. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I gave it to a friend and she did quite well going through.
Oh,
But
fair enough then.
yeah,
Okay, we're not going to offer $1 million then.
afraid I can't help with the $1 million.
All right. Well, I'll ask Julian to borrow the money from him.
Yeah.
Julian, you owe me $1 million.
Perfect.
Perfect.
He won't listen to this.
No, we don't listen to our own stuff. Maybe we should just drive our numbers up a little bit more.
Maybe.
Yeah, play it in the background, pop it on and
Yeah.
repeat.
Exactly right. So
I
Kate,
I will have to
Oh yeah.
Sorry.
No,
Sorry, jumping
Go.
in again. I
No,
will
go.
say I was listening to your podcast a while ago. I was listening to your interview with the Hannah? No,
Madeline?
who did you interview for? Madeline.
Madeline, yeah.
I can't remember her last name.
It's
Tevu?
Tevu, something like that. I'm
Tevu?
sorry,
Yes,
Madeline,
I
if
was
you're listening to
listening.
this.
She was lovely. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed that episode. But I was listening to that podcast and I was so invested in listening on the way home from work that I completely forgot I had to go to the shops and buy a birthday present for my sister. So I arrived up, I pulled up in the driveway. I'm like, oh well. So it's a very enjoyable podcast.
That's very
Yeah.
flattering.
Just,
Thank you.
Yeah. PSA
So-
to anyone listening in the
made
car right
people-
now, just
Miss what they're supposed to be doing. I think that's
Yeah.
a sign of a good podcast.
yeah.
If you're on the train and then suddenly you realize, oh no, I'm supposed to get off 3 stops ago.
But what I'm hearing is the episodes without Eloise in them are really top
Ah,
notch.
okay. Yeah, all right.
No.
They're
Twisting
always
my
insulting
words.
me. I'm going to start my own podcast by myself.
So I was
Oh,
gonna
dear.
ask Kate, with all those funny little hieroglyphics,
Yes.
do you like to have a clear outline of your stories before you go into writing, or do you just like to jump in and work it all out later?
For Flamegate, when I went into it, I had a vague idea. There were some things I definitely didn't realize, at least until that 83,000 words in that I mentioned before. But once I knew where I was heading, it was much easier to sort of plan a bit clearer. But with the one I'm pottering around with at the moment, I've definitely approached that a lot more strategically. I've discovered my laptop has like little post-it notes that you can use, so that's been really helpful.
I use those a lot at my work too,
Yeah.
because if I don't write a to-do list at work, I will get no work done.
Yeah. So no, it's been good to visualize things a bit more.
And so I was reading about how you're an English teacher. Is that correct?
I am. So ESL, so English, technically ELICOS, so English language intensive course for overseas students. I think that's what it stands for.
It sounds impressive.
Yeah. What was it exactly that inspired you to start writing in the first place? And was it specifically fantasy that you wanted to write, or were there other things that you set out to write before?
I have just always enjoyed writing. Honestly, as long as I can remember, I was just writing silly stories down. So that the writing happened first. I sort of had always dreamed of becoming an author. Banjo buddy. And a dog owner. So I'm just ticking dreams off left, right, and center over here. Yeah, no, I don't know what inspired it. I guess growing up, read a lot of books. The parents would read books every night, and it was just magical. And I thought, yes, I want to be part of this, I guess. And then I got older and then I read books to my sister and I just enjoyed like the reactions of an audience as well. So, and Lexi, my sister, she's always actually been the first audience for whatever I write. So the tradition continues.
Is she like your beta reader with all the drafts?
Yes. Yes, she is.
Does she give like good feedback, like honest feedback, even though she's your sister?
I hope so. I think I can tell if something doesn't click immediately. Yeah.
And I guess Lexi also illustrated the lovely, I think it's the start of each chapter. There's a little illustration.
She did. Yes, I love them so much. So each chapter has its own little chapter illustration. She did the cover art as well. So the cover art's color and the chapters are all in black and white.
Yeah, they are really
They're very
nice.
cute.
Did she volunteer for that, or did you volunteer her for that?
I paid her. Don't worry. I paid for her services.
Pay your artists.
Yes, definitely pay your artists. Yes.
And don't use AI.
Please don't. Please don't. Yeah. There's a lot of that going around at the moment, but no, it's all by Lex.
They're very good. You'll have to pass on our congratulations.
I
Is that
will.
the right word?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'll do
Our
that.
admiration.
Admiration. I shall. Thank you.
Yes, I was I've got the e-version of your books in my
Nice.
Kindle app on my phone, and I was noticing the little the pieces of artwork at the beginning of every chapter. I thought, oh, that's cute.
It is cute. They just add a little something. I love books with illustrations. Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily just for kids' books or like children's chapter books. I think it just adds something.
And with the idea, like it's kind of a young adult fantasy novel. Would I be correct in sort of making that assumption about the books?
Maybe a little older than young adult. I wouldn't
I was going to say,
necessarily.
maybe, Eloise, you're not as far. It gets pretty dark, especially in the second book.
Okay.
When things happen.
I'm not quite further into it
Especially,
enough.
not too many spoilers, but you did post an art piece on your Instagram about the comfort chicken.
Yeah.
And yeah, that
Things
whole
get
scene,
heavy.
that's a heavy scene.
Things get a little bit heavier for him. It snowballs and it just it's I'm not kind to the poor.
Well, it
the poor
starts
lad.
like pretty mid-action as it is, so I can imagine how much further it all goes. And so far,
Yeah.
the Flamegate organization does not seem like a nice place to be.
No.
or be a part of.
No.
Was Flamegate inspired specifically by anything?
Flamegate in particular, I suppose nothing specific, but when I first started writing, I was sort of a young, idealistic university student. And I think at the time, and honestly still now, let's be real, there was a bit of frustration at maybe some of these larger, more powerful corporations that, you sometimes feel a bit powerless against. And there's a line in book one where Phoenix has just snapped a bit under the pressure everyone's putting on him, and he says, I'm tired of fighting against the people I'm fighting for. And I think the idea was that, there's all these really huge, powerful corporations that don't realize that sometimes there's something bigger than them and more important than them, like the world, maybe. And fighting against that can feel like a losing battle sometimes. So I guess that crept in a bit.
I think we can all
well, thank God our world isn't like that at all.
Yeah, it's such
we're certainly not in the darkest timeline at all.
No parallels to be seen here.
I haven't grown a goatee yet, so we know we're not in the darkest timeline.
That's true.
Banjo buddy. Banjo dog. Good boy. Okay.
Good boy, Banjo.
Banjo.
There's just so much I want to talk to you about, especially in the last book when all the timelines kind of start
Mm.
making sense.
Mm.
But we're avoiding spoilers as much as possible. Maybe off air, I let it all out.
Okay.
Don't talk. But I guess was it? I know you drew diagrams and stuff like that, but especially for a
Mm.
character like Alice, who
Mm.
is kind of living her own story outside of the main storyline, if you know what I mean, if
Yeah.
that makes any
Yeah.
sense.
I just
Yeah,
met
no.
Alice, so I know who you're talking about.
Excellent.
Oh, she gets a much bigger role in I think it's the second book, especially towards the end, the last half. Yeah, was it tricky with
Yeah.
a character like her trying to keep that straight? Like,
Track.
yeah.
Yes. Yes, it was. I have some rather chaotic Excel spreadsheets with different timelines and different dates. And then I think the picture I showed you with all the timelines,
Mm.
there are several arrows involved in those pictures.
Yes.
Um, Even now, looking back, I sometimes have to really think about how it worked out. I'm like, did I fit it in correctly? And I think I did. If someone wants to have a read and do the mathematics of all the timing and check if the time travel checks out, go for it.
Yeah, I'm not
But
going to do that. I'll just trust you.
you're
Well, now
working
I'm
on it.
going to.
Excellent, excellent.
As I read through it.
I dare
Um,
ya.
because I haven't gotten up to that bit yet,
Mm.
just from how you were talking, I was about to say, so I'm intimating that there is actual time travel in your story.
It's sort
So I
of,
don't know if we made that
it's
clear.
not the main plot line. I'd say it's sort of secondary. Like Phoenix doesn't do any of it. It's all this Alice character who you've just met. And she's when I first introduced her, she was much more of like a stereotypical hero. And then as the book went on, I'm like, she's probably got all sorts of things going on in her life that might need to flesh her out a bit more. So she definitely changed probably the most when I was writing.
There's a whole book there of her story that I want to read.
Ooh, okay.
So get onto it.
Uh-oh.
That could be the third novel.
There we go.
Done.
Done.
Writing it for you. There we go.
I don't know if it's known, but the duology was initially a standalone book. I wrote the whole thing
Mm.
in one go. The intention was to write a standalone. Just I love standalones. I really appreciate just a book that's all neat and finished, and you think, yes, great, fantastic. But the practicalities of publishing as a debut author, it was a chunky book, baby, and I thought, okay, we
Yeah,
have to
because
be a bit.
I've got them here, and it's like probably about 1,000 pages if you put
Yeah,
them
I
all
did
together.
appreciate your comment when you mentioned it the first time. You're like, it's a big book, not a big story, but a big book, and it is.
It's
It's a
heavy.
chunky book.
You put them together, like they're really
Yeah,
heavy.
yeah.
Which is
So
good.
we chopped it down the middle. I made a few tweaks
Mm.
and it two separate things. But yeah, it is really what just one long story chopped sort of awkwardly in half. Not too awkwardly, I hope, but yeah.
And I
One
get
of my biggest fears though is that people read the first and then never quite get around to the second when in my
mm.
mind it's like, but it's the one story. You're missing out.
It's like people
Yeah.
who go to the theater and then leave at intermission. It's like, what are you doing? Come
Yeah,
back.
why? When you want to see how it unfolds.
Some people just get confused and think, oh, that was the end. And
That was it. What a weird place to finish.
Every
Yeah.
no plot line was resolved. This is horrible.
Yeah. Yeah, no, so I hope people stick with it to the end. I hope it pays off.
I've raved about your books for a while now.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All good. And like I said, I think I said in the very first email I sent to you, or maybe it was on the podcast, that there's this kind of almost thing like if you're not traditionally published, then your story isn't as good.
There is a bit of that perception.
Yeah, which I don't think
Mm.
is true at all. I've read a lot of really good self-published books, and it's just
Yeah, they're definitely.
mm. And what was, I guess, springboarding off that, like you
Hmm.
self-published this all, I guess, yourself with maybe some help from other people. I don't know.
Hmm.
Was that like scary, like jumping into that, or was this always
It's
something your,
terrifying.
yeah, but was it always
Yeah.
your plan to just do it, or did you want to go down that traditional, quote unquote, traditional published
I
route?
initially, as I was writing, the goal was always traditional.
Yeah.
I thought that would be where I'd end up. And then once I finished the book, and it was just a huge standalone, I messaged, I think, only one independent publishing house, like a tiny, almost indie publishing house in Sydney. And I messaged them and, just checked if they were interested, gave the synopsis, and they said, thank you anyway. It's not for us. And that was the only letter I ever sent out. I thought, well, I guess this isn't for me. And I thought I'll try and do it myself. I think maybe I'm a bit stubborn, and I just thought, I can do it.
Hmm.
And then it's really hard being self-published. There's a lot involved, but I realized as well that it would have to be two books. And who
Hmm.
knows, maybe if I did try traditional, it might be easier to crack into that as a duology as
Hmm.
opposed to a little known author as a huge, huge book. Like I can see that people wouldn't have wanted to take a chance on something that dense. So
Have
yeah,
you
but
considered
yeah.
still doing the traditional publishing route now that it has been self-published? Like, I don't know exactly what the process would be if you were to want to do something like that at all.
I'm not sure. I'm sort of enjoying the indie adventure at the moment,
Hmm.
but I don't know how keen traditional publishers are to accept books that are already out in the
Hmm.
world. Honest, I'm not sure. I'd have to look
Hmm.
into it.
But I
It would
guess,
honestly, it'd help, I think, to get the books out there.
and I guess being
But
an
who knows?
independent author, you get that final say in what you want to put
Hmm.
out.
Yes, and I
It's
did really want the illustrations. I love them so much, and I it's been really nice to have just those little things, and also like this is lovely. The connections with people that I
hmm.
think are maybe not as well, I don't know, I'm not traditional, but I think this feels it has so much weight to it when you get to connect with readers because there's so few of them. And when you find one, it's like, oh, this is really
It's
nice. And it feels authentic. And yeah, I
yeah.
really appreciate it.
Oh no, we appreciate you coming on and listening because we have so few listeners.
I don't know what you're getting out of this, really. Our
I mean,
four
delightful
listeners.
conversation. Got a cup of
I'm
tea.
being
This is really
insulted to
nice.
our listeners now. Thank you for everyone who's listening.
Yes. So I guess have you learnt a lot about marketing and how to put yourself out there, or what has worked and
Yes.
what hasn't worked?
Uh, yeah. I don't know what's worked. Honestly, I think Supernova was the most successful thing I've done
Hmm.
as an author. And again, I think it's because you had genuine connections with people. You could talk to them face to face and see what they were interested in. It feels maybe I don't do enough, honestly, as an independent author. Like the only social media I have is Instagram. I've thought about TikTok and then it just seems like I have no, I can't. But yeah, no, I think the face to face was really good. That was a
Yeah.
nice way to get the book out there. Um, I don't know what else has worked. I recently did a free ebook giveaway and I gave away, I think like 100 something copies, which is more books than I've sold the whole previous year. So it's nice that they're floating around.
Hmm.
Um, maybe some reviews will come out of that. Fingers crossed. If not, readers have them, so that's that's still good. But yeah, no,
Um,
social media can feel a bit just like shouting into the void at times.
Yes.
Yeah.
We definitely know the feeling doing this. Like, we'll sit here for an hour chatting and maybe no one will ever hear it.
I hope people hear it. I hear it.
Good. We got one person.
I got another friend to subscribe today when I went to lunch with them, actually, because she'd missed all of my socials and was like, "Wait, you're doing a podcast?" I'm like, "Yes." Why does it?
Yeah.
We've been doing it for like 5
Come
months
for book
now.
chats.
So as we record this, it's actually Supernova on the Gold Coast this weekend. Are you going to be there, or do you have any plans to be there, or even in the Brisbane one later on in the year?
I'm hoping Brisbane again. Yeah, it's a lot of work. People are going to listen to this and they're like, wow, it's like she doesn't even want it. I do. I do want to be an indie author. It's a lot of work, and I can really appreciate the amount of effort that people put into it. But yeah, Brisbane Supernova, that's my next goal, I think. Maybe some markets, who knows? I should investigate that.
Well, you'd corner the market, because I go to a lot of markets, let me tell you. I'm a market girl.
Yeah.
And I don't tend to see authors at markets. So
no, but I don't know if you tend
to
see people who want to buy a book at markets either.
Well, you never know.
You never know. I think I'll give it a go. I'll keep
people
you posted.
Don't tend to want to buy things made out of buttons either, but they do. So
yeah. This is true. I'll have a special button-coated book edition. We'll see how that goes.
Some sort of fabric special edition cover. Put the whole book,
patchwork.
one book, the 1,000 pages or something, all wrapped up in a fabric book. Special edition.
Ideas.
I do cross stitching, actually, so maybe I could cross stitch you up a special cover or something. I am definitely offering way more than what I can actually do at this time.
You do that, Eloise, and I will supervise.
Great.
Because I can't do that.
Thank you for your help.
But yeah, Supernova was... Well, I found your book through there, just randomly wandering down the aisles looking for...
Yeah,
buy.
It was an awesome experience. That was my first ever Supernova that I'd ever done. And I had dreams about it the following nights of just like handing out pamphlets. My brain was just like on Supernova mode for a long while after that. But I really loved it. And I definitely will go back.
Yeah, and like you said, it's always nice to actually meet the people face to face. And you get that.
Yeah.
It's that idea of you get the passion behind the authors that just want their work out there in the world. I think it's really, really special.
It was for sure.
So just going back to like your themes of science fiction and fantasy that's happening in the books, is that something that you have always been passionate about specifically with that genre, or are there other genres that you're interested in also pursuing with your writing?
Writing has generally been sci-fi fantasy. I'll read pretty much anything, but writing, sci-fi fantasy. I think it just opens up a whole lot of opportunities that you can explore, like real world problems, but just in a kind of different stimulation, I suppose. It's a fun thing to explore. I enjoy writing fantasy. Yeah.
Do you have any specific inspirations that you've taken from?
Not intentionally. A few people have said Gaiman has come across like the vibe, and I think because I write third person and I enjoy that sort of looking at other characters' thoughts. I'd say third person limited mostly, so I sort of stick with one character until they either pass out or I want to hide spoilers. Actually was really good. Like if I had to, because some people knew about things that other people didn't, so you'd have to switch to a different head for a while. But so I guess stylistically.
There were a couple of times that the Phoenix kind of switching bodies almost seemed like a get out of jail free card for not having to explain
I know, right? It's like, oh, that's a little too convenient.
And he's unconscious.
we'll just address that topic later. Yeah. Yeah.
One thing, I don't know if it's too much of a spoiler, but what I really liked is that it was sort of the first story that I've come across where the belief of the other world, or the non-belief of the other world was the same in both worlds. So meaning like Phoenix crosses the void between the two worlds, but no one in either world believes what's actually happening to him or that the other world exists, which I find like in Yonder is really hilarious because usually when you come across like a fantasy world like that, they for whatever reason tend to be a bit more enlightened, going, oh yes, magic exists, so therefore of course this other world exists. But they're all like, what the hell's he talking about in there as well?
Yeah, he's got like his core crew of believers, I guess you could call them, but most other people, I guess there's not a lot of evidence that what he says is true. It just looks like he's taken a weird nap, so they don't quite grasp what's happening.
Like obviously because I haven't read too far into the books just yet, but I'm thinking to myself, like as my own headcanon, maybe he is crazy and maybe he is just all making it up.
Yes, have questions.
Maybe one of the worlds doesn't actually exist or something.
Maybe. Honestly, as I was writing, I also had these questions. But then it was all a dream. No.
Oh my God, never end a story like that.
No, it's all been a dream is I think a bit too done.
I agree.
Yes, I think it's really interesting as well how like I really like Yonder being with all of the different kind of like weird characters that you see, like they sort of talk about how there's just like these random goblins on the ground.
I love that the goblins are just like that world's squirrels, just wandering around
really
doing
like
their
the
own
goblins.
thing. It's
I
like
just sort of scattered them in.
But seriously, it's like one of my favorite pieces of world building that I've seen in a book in a while. It just kind of in that world, it's just like, oh yeah, there's little goblins running around doing goblin things while the main characters doing their stuff.
I look forward to hearing more about
them. My earlier comment about not loving detail heavy like world descriptions. I thought, well, if I just throw a few goblins running around in the background, that's enough, right?
Can't go wrong with goblin squirrels.
Yeah, but it's good that there's a lot of what is it, like that show don't tell stuff, especially when it comes to like the giants culture and stuff. When you get into
I really liked the giant culture.
Yeah, they were lovely when it's a really funny moment where I think Phoenix tries to talk to them and they just walk back towards the hut.
Let's try this again. Yes.
Which Eloise has no idea yet.
No, I'm not up to that bit yet. That's okay.
I hope you like the giants. I think if I were in my world, I think I'd probably be one of the giants. I like their vibe.
Which I guess, spoiler alert, Eloise, I don't think you've gotten to the giants yet.
No. That's all right. I think I have read something where they're on their way to meet them, so I'm aware that they're coming, but I haven't gotten to that scene yet. So,
okay.
Yes, I am looking forward to reading much more of it. Yeah, as I said earlier,
take your time.
It's like trying to find my feet back in doing this again, and I actually started reading like a physical copybook as well at the same time. So I'm sort of reading this on the train to and from work, and then reading something else at home. So my attention is a bit divided. That's what happens when you decide to do 40 before 40, and two of the things on your list is read a piece of classic literature you've never read before, and then finish your to be read pile. And your to be read pile is like 15 books, and it took you 5 months to read the classic literature, and now you've only got 4.5 weeks.
A little bit of catching up to do.
You also made the mistake of starting your 40 before 40 list like 5 months before your 40th birthday.
That's true. It was like, when was it? I wrote it in August or September last year.
Yeah.
And dragged my feet for 2.5 months on doing any of them. Like, I've got plenty of time. And then it got to January. I was like, oh no.
I don't know where the time goes. And I have absolute faith that you will do it. And even if you don't, look at all the books you've read. So
That that is true. I
yeah,
think I'll just have to be like start my to be read pile, which I've done. So I think I can
yeah.
safely cross that one off the
Even if you read
list.
one page from a book, that's starting.
That is starting. That's true. Like my start writing a novel where I've literally written like 3 sentences on a page
That's where it
of an
begins.
idea.
That's
Um,
where it begins.
yes. So look, I'm already going to admit I'm actually not going to complete the list before I turn 40. There's a few things that I cannot get done between now and the middle of next month. So I already have a deferred list already. So
You get
it
through a
was a
decent
challenge.
chunk.
It was a fun challenge. A lot of the things I put on my list were just to fill spots because I couldn't think of 40 things to do.
No, I think it still counts as a success. Progress is a success.
Exactly right. Have you ever considered doing like a list of challenges yourself?
I have a really long TBR list as well, but I'm very much a mood reader, and once I start reading, it's brilliant, and I'll
Mm.
keep going and going. Um, but yeah, I'd have to just pick up the book first, and then then
Can we
then we're
ask?
good.
Yeah, what sort of stuff are you reading at the moment?
I was literally just about to
Yep,
say,
read your
what's
mind.
on your list right now?
Well, now that Catch 22 is finished, um, what else have I've been reading, I've just finished it actually as well. I've been really into the Stranger Times series. I don't know if you've heard of it. I
No.
just stumbled upon it while I was in Melbourne last year, and I read the whole book, the whole first book within 3 days. It's very similar. If you ever watched, probably would have, I feel like it's in your ballpark, Black Books,
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
the
One of my
BBC series. Yes,
favorite
Yes.
comedies.
right? A classic. So I
Dave
still watch that to
syndrome.
this day. Yes.
The Little Book of Carmen.
Yes.
Have you got it? The Little Book of Carmen. It's small. It's little. It's blue. Oh, is it
It
this?
lives
And
permanently in my brain. Um, all of those lines. But The Stranger Times to me feels very much as if Black Books were supernatural. So
oh
it's
wow. Okay.
yes, it's fun. It's a really easy read. It's written
Is it
by
is it that one?
C.K. That's the one, C.K. McDonald.
Yep. Again,
I
people on an
think
audio medium can't see what I'm doing.
Oh yes.
yeah.
I'm showing a cover of the book to confirm I've
It
Googled the right one.
was
I
a
think
lot
I
of
have
fun.
seen those for sale actually in like the bookshop. If I've
It's
been
it's
past a
like a
bookshop.
little journalist, like a newspaper agency, and they're following all these like supernatural mysteries, and it's all a bit quirky. It's very much conversation driven, which I enjoy. Again, not detail heavy,
Mm.
and
Hmm.
it's just a lot of banter. I enjoy it.
Well, thank you for the recommendation. I'll put that on my
Add that
to-be
to the
read
TBR
list.
pile.
It's just getting bigger now.
My TBR pile is already big, and after this weekend, it's probably going to double in size.
Yes.
The books I'm
Yeah,
going to be
enjoy
getting.
Supernova.
Brayton buys like at least 15 books at Supernova whenever he goes.
He's every writer's dream.
I'm just going for the Doctor Who and the Good Omens content.
Nice.
I'm meeting Jodie
That Good
Whittaker.
Omens ending, though, my goodness.
Oh,
Tuh,
don't
tuh.
get me started on how heartbroken and
And now we
desperate
wait.
I am. Now we wait.
It'll
They're
be
even
what,
going to start filming.
2027 or something by the time that third
Oh,
season comes
well,
out.
so I'm a big I joined Tumblr specifically just to join the Good Omens fandom in
Yeah.
September of last year, and so people are always putting in like theories and headcanons and whatnot. And apparently, so Michael Sheen's performing in a theatre production called Nye at the moment in
Yeah.
London, and someone asked him when do you think Good Omens will start filming? And he apparently replied, probably not before the beginning of next year. And I'm like, ah,
Wow.
no. Well, Neil Gaiman hasn't
Patience.
finished writing the scripts yet, so he apparently has written at least 3 scripts, and they have been handed into Prime, and
Wow.
because he posts on Tumblr as well,
Yeah.
and he's confirmed that. So 3 episodes have been
Banjo,
completed.
come on. Listen, mate. Hey, Ben,
Good boy, Banjo.
Banjo, come here. Come here. Sit. Thank you. Okay. Now go back.
So
I'll
three
tell you what, though, I
episodes.
listened. Oh, sorry, go on.
I was about to say, so 3 episodes have been written, and he's finalizing the last 3. So
I just come
it's
to
like,
you for all
Wow.
my Good Omens news.
yes, you can. I'll know it
Yeah.
all.
I'll tell you what, though, I had to listen to the audiobook. So I'd already read the book, and just for old time's sake, I popped the audiobook on, and it was probably the first audiobook I'd listened to in years and years and years. There's actually not much of the angels and demons involved in
No,
they really
like
squeeze a lot more into the series than they did
they really
for
do,
the
and they
book.
do cut a lot of parts of the book out to
Mm,
allow more of a story
to
for
grow, yeah.
Aziraphale and Crowley as well.
Mm.
When you say you listened to the audiobook, did you listen to the audio version or did you listen to the play?
Audiobook. But it
Okay.
included, it was the audiobook, but it was the full cast recording. So it had the actors doing the voices. But I was so surprised because they hardly popped in at all. It's a lot more behind the scenes
And it's a
narration going
completely
on.
different ending in the first season as well. Like
Yeah.
they do a completely different ending in terms of it tells a bit more of a story from what
Yeah.
actually happens in the book, which I
Mm.
really enjoyed. I really loved that.
No, I thought they did a great job.
But yeah, I also recommend the BBC radio play
The
version.
play,
Yes.
okay. I
It's
shall
hard to get
investigate.
now.
Oh,
Very hard to get, but Mark Heap and Peter Serafinowicz play Aziraphale and Crowley respectively, and they're
mm.
brilliant. And like one of my hot desires would be for both of them to end up in season 3 somewhere.
Oh,
I would
little
love
cameo.
Peter Serafinowicz to play Lucifer because I think
Oh.
him against David Tennant as those characters would be really amazing because Peter is like he's got at least half a foot on David Tennant in terms of height. Um,
Did you say,
and
sorry,
I would,
Eloise, did you say Mark Heap
yes,
and Peter Serafinowicz?
Sarah Fenowitz,
Yep.
yes.
That version is on Audible. I
Oh, it
just looked it
is.
up.
Okay, cool.
So
Nice.
both,
Recommend.
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
both
you.
versions are on Audible.
And I would love
Okay.
Mark Heap to play like an annoying angel in heaven that's just assigned to assisting Aziraphale and pestering him with incessant questions and being really annoying. Like I don't know if you know Mark Heap from he's in Spaced and he's in an Upstart Crow
Oh,
and he was in Big Train. So he plays like
Spaced.
weird
Is that BBC series?
with
Am
Simon
I
Pegg
thinking something?
and
Simon
Nick
Pegg, yeah.
Frost. Yes,
Yeah.
where they're just a bunch of early 20s
They're
housemates.
so young in it, yeah.
That
Oh,
takes
I
me
love that
that
show.
takes me back to like my early uni days when someone introduced me to Spaced.
That's when
Very
I
likely
was
me.
introduced to Space.
Clearly a rite of passage to watch Spaced
I think
when
so,
you're at
yeah.
uni.
Such a great
I
show.
was given it on, I think, CDs. One of my workmates handed it to me on like
I just
DVDs and
ripped it
said, "You've
onto a
got to watch
Yep.
this
CD.
thing." Yeah. Like, all
Amazing.
right, thank you.
Oh, no,
Ah,
such a great show.
memories, memories.
BBC always producing amazing stuff.
Agreed.
So Kate, where you've mentioned another book that you're writing, can you give us any hints as to what that will be in relation to at all? Like
I th
what's yeah,
If I
what's
ever do publish it,
Mhm.
it is connected to Flamegate. I think a lot of it is just me seeing where bits of the story go. It wouldn't be a continuation so much. It's Yeah, like I said, it wouldn't be a trilogy, maybe some sort of weird epilogue, but with different times going on. So I think it would be bits of before this current geology and bits in the middle of this current geology and bits after this current geology, which sounds a lot more complicated than it is. It sounds like a mess, but
Yeah, you're
I
not
don't
just
know. I'll
making
see
more
if it
work for
works.
yourself.
Absolutely, I am doing that, but I enjoy it, and I'm just going to see where it goes. Perhaps it'll be out in the world, perhaps not. I'm enjoying it at the moment anyway.
Well, you can always
Um,
secretly just send it to us.
Yeah. I will happily redraft for you if you'd like.
Oh, thank you. I'll whittle it down a whole lot before any poor soul has to go through however many pages it ends up being.
We have talked about like audio mediums as well. Have you ever considered perhaps getting people together to read Flamegate out as an
I
audiobook?
have. I would love it so much. It would be, I again, that Good Omens full cast thing, when I was listening to that, I thought, oh, that'd be so cool if this happened for Flamegate one day. But it would just be a matter of finding the right people who have the right time and who have the right equipment. I have researched it a little. Voice actors are not cheap, as they shouldn't be. It is
Yep.
hard work. I know Brayton was amazing and recorded some of the first book. I've tried to record just one chapter, and it is not easy. My throat was so sore by the end of it, and it takes a lot. So
Mm.
yeah, I can understand why they aren't cheap, but it would have to be a decent amount of planning, I think, for that to ever
Yeah.
happen.
I will say I did reference your recording for some of the character voices just to get an idea of where your head was at.
Well, even listening to my own voices, I'm like, oh, that sounds wrong. That's not how they sound in my brain.
You need a really good voice director as
Mm.
well, so that they can
Yeah.
definitely not only get the best performance out of you, but know how to retake things and then edit it all
Yeah.
together. So I can imagine it's not just as simple as I'm just going to sit here and read this book out loud.
There's the one with a good voice. Hey, Banjo. Benj. One moment. Banjo boy, come here. Come here. Come here. Take this ball. Enjoy this ball. There you go. Good dog. Okay, we'll see. Sorry.
I'm totally not cutting that out of the episode.
No.
That's staying in.
I just realized that's a mirror behind you. I thought it was a hallway.
No. That's the mirror. You can see some of the bookshelves. I was trying to think, how can I get some sort of bookish aesthetic going on, but this is where the seat has to go. So we've got reflections of my bookshelves.
We've only interviewed 2 other people, but both of them managed to have bookshelves in the background as well.
We've got some in there. There we go. Yeah.
I got clothes behind there.
Brayton's just in the TARDIS, as I mentioned before we started recording.
It's like Reflections of My Bookshelf is a great title.
Ooh, I'm gonna write that down. Trademark.
Reflections
Copyright.
of a bookshelf. You are writing, both of you, aren't you? I know, Brayton, you said you were thinking of indie publishing direction, and Eloise, I guess it's still in the distant horizon, but something.
Oh, mine's still definitely in the distant horizon. I am like you said, just kind of, what was the word you used? Hiddledy-piggledy, playing around with some stuff.
Yeah,
it's very far off from any sort of readability, but it's coming along.
I have 3 books that I have in mind that I want to write. One of them is like a memoir of my grandmother that I have had in my head for a very long time. Because she led a very interesting life, but half the time we don't know if they were lies or sort of not lies or fabrications, but just sort of like stretching the truth a little bit. Especially when we would then, after she passed away, we sort of compared stories and we're like, wait a second, but she told me this, but I heard this.
A few contradictions here. That sounds lovely. Similar, do you know Big Fish?
Oh, yes. That's I've not read that book, but I've seen the movie with Ewan McGregor, which
that's the one. Yeah.
Had me hysterically crying for at least an hour
Yeah.
after.
Yeah. And
that's not hard for me. I cried a lot of films. Usually Disney films. Like cry at Toy Story. And then I lament afterwards, they're toys. They're just toys. Why am I crying?
But I guess that was part of the charm as well, of like some of the stories seem so so wild and like unbelievable, and that was the joy of that. Okay, lovely. And
Yeah, so I do want to kind of weave that kind of like storytelling where it would be her first person perspective telling, and then like later on it's sort of like my perspective questioning her or other family members going, but wait a second,
yeah.
hang on, let's examine this for a second. Two other stories that I had in mind was one oh, I don't want to say this out loud because I'm afraid someone will steal it, but
Okay, you don't
No,
have to. No, 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 don't.
I'm
we'll talk
ready.
about it after
I've got my notebook. I'm ready.
Okay.
Yeah, two of them are just very silly fictional stories that I have in mind. One's actually like a post-modern, post-society kind of story, kind of sort of the same genre as yours, where like an incident has happened and this is kind of like the world we live in now. And the other one is an alternate universe thing with a couple of two specific characters from two other books put together.
Oh.
Old books,
Oh.
so they're in the public domain. I'm not stealing anything.
Oh.
Retelling of
Tarzan and let's see who else.
and Batman. No. So I kind of have that. I kind of have that.
I'd read it.
But yeah, so they're sort of percolating in my mind. It really just comes down to wanting to sit down and finish writing it. I have been, one of my 40 before 40 is to finish writing the Doctor Who script that I have been trying to write for over a year now, which I was hoping to have finished by Supernova because it involves Jodie Whittaker's version of the Doctor, and I wanted to be like, I wrote a Doctor Who script for you.
Oh my goodness. How do you find writing screenplays?
Yes, so I don't really know how to do it. I'm just writing the story and then I'll figure out how to put it into script version later.
Format later, yeah.
But it's going to be called Elementary, My Dear Doctor, and it will be about the Doctor going back and meeting Arthur Conan Doyle, because that story has so far not yet been told. Arthur Conan Doyle has not turned up in any Doctor Who story.
I was about to, how can they not have done that yet?
I know. And it involves an actual, proper, weird story that happened in real life that I'm drawing on the inspiration of. So Arthur Conan Doyle apparently defended a man who was accused of murdering and mutilating a bunch of cattle in London. And it was very much a racially charged kind of thing. So the man was half Indian, half British. And it was, you know, back in those days, it's like, let's just blame the half brown man on these horrific crimes. And he proved that he didn't do it and actually got him off. But there was a rumor that an eccentric millionaire like owned a menagerie of bizarre animals, including a puma, which escaped. So that's like the most likely story as to what happened.
Wow.
Look how stupid it is. But then I thought,
wow,
that's a Doctor Who story. That's
an interesting one to explore.
A monster alien that someone's captured in their hubris and it's escaped. No one steal that. Copyright.
Isn't he the one who was all about the magical fairies in the garden?
He fully believed the Cottingley Glen fairies were real. Like, he was absolutely convinced. So that's why I always find it very funny. Because
I don't know. Looking at those photos now, I'm not convinced. Just, you know.
It's only on for another couple of weeks, but at Gallery of Modern Art Goma here in Brisbane, they've got the Fairy Tales exhibition, and they actually have a set of the original prints of the Cottingley Glen photos on display in the Labyrinth room, the Jim Henson's Labyrinth, which is my favorite room for obvious reasons. So if you want to go and have a look at them, they're up there. But yeah, you look at the photos and you go, how did anyone believe that these were real? But, you know, turn of the century, cameras weren't really a thing. You know, people were easily fooled, I suppose.
I look at those old photos I used to take on my Nokia flip phone and think, how did I used to think this was really great quality?
I say that every time I get a new phone, and I can remember the ads of like, oh, high quality photos, and I will take a phone with like my current iPhone and be like, why do these photos look so terrible?
Do you remember the Game Boy camera?
No.
There was a Game Boy camera?
Really?
A
Yes.
camera and a Game Boy?
There was, and you could print out the photos, and they were like just black and white dot
Oh,
matrix.
yes, I do remember that now,
Oh,
vaguely.
I don't know that one.
How do
Those
you,
things would probably be worth a lot of
Eloise?
money.
You're old. You're older than I am. You should have a better memory of that.
Stop that. I wasn't allowed consoles growing up.
Yeah.
They were too expensive. Oh dear. All right. Well, I think that's probably a good place to leave it. We're just rambling now.
Yep.
Kate, thank you so much for joining us. It has been such a pleasure to have you on the podcast.
This is great fun. Thank you for having me.
Where can people find you?
I was about to
Yep.
say, where
Sorry,
can
cut
you
in.
find you? In a
That's
not
all.
stalkery way.
Yeah.
In a not stalkery way, you can find me on only Instagram, Kate Mac Writing. Yeah, there's also a website, which I think is www.katemacwriting.com. Yeah. Yeah, you can find me on Insta. And I would
Excellent.
love to see you there.
Yep. I will make sure it's linked in the show notes and any other
Thank
social
you.
media posts. I will make sure you tagged in
Brilliant.
them. So that's the non-stalkery way. What's the stalkery way people can get in touch with you?
Well, here's my house address.
It's 14.
I'm kidding. We
Here's
don't
my
condone
place of
stalking.
work.
Where
Yeah,
can people
please don't.
find the ability to purchase Flamegate?
It's currently just on Amazon at the moment, so go Bezos.
Okay.
You can find me.
We all have to lie in the devil's bed at some point.
Yay, capitalism.
We do. Yes, but you can get it. You can get the ebook version, or you can get the physical copy. But both of them come with lovely chapter illustrations. Go on,
Excellent.
do it.
Brayton will make sure to put links to that in the show notes as well.
I will.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you everyone very much for listening once again. We will be back at some point in the future with a new episode.
Or in the past.
Or in the
Who
past.
knows?
You don't know. Ooh, all the different timelines.
Time travel.
Yeah.
Insert
Thank you,
Doctor Who
guys.
whooshing noise here.
If I could without getting some sort of copyright
I was just
strike, I
thinking
would.
that.
I'd be interested to know if you can get copyright striked for Doctor
Eloise,
Who.
can you
Anyway.
just do it by voice?
Yep, there you go.
Perfect.
Woo, woo.
And on that pitch perfect singing.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone, and goodbye.
Thank you.